Okay, we're going to think a little bit about high frequency words and sight words. The text, I think the words their way text isn't completely clear on how those two words are different. And I think it's common for a lot of classroom teachers to have some confusion about those two words. They aren't actually synonyms, they don't mean the same thing. And this is probably something that is more refined understanding that you would find reading teachers, reading intervention teachers specifically understanding. But I want you to know the difference. High frequency words are those words that are commonly seen in text. And so there are about 400 words that make up 40% of all text. And they're usually these little function words, like here's a picture of a book. And, in this book, we see this high frequency word, we. We is one of those little words that's in a lot of text. We see them a lot. And because kids are going to see those words a lot, we don't necessarily want them to have to decode that word every time they come to it. We want it to be a word that just pops into their head. And that would free them up to decode harder words in the text that are more novel or unusual. So high frequency words are any common word in text. Sometimes people talk about these as fry words or dolch. Those two authors came up with lists of most common words in text. Now, high frequency words are a little bit different than sight words. High frequency words just mean that they are commonly found in text. Sight words, on the other hand, are a subcategory of high frequency words. So a sight word has to first be a word that is commonly found in text. The second criteria to make something a sight word is that it doesn't actually follow the rules of phonics. So here in this text, we see the word are. Now, on a sight word, the word are, if you follow the phonics rules of vowel, consonant, E, we would say the E kicks that A and makes it say its name, A. And so this word would, following the rules of phonics, be pronounced air, but it's not. It's pronounced R. And so this word right here, R, would be what we would call a high frequency sight word. It's in a lot of text. We see the word R in a lot of text. But if kids know the rules of English, they're going to pronounce this word incorrectly. They'll call it air. So a sight word is a really tricky word because even when kids know their phonics features, they won't be able to decode that word. Now that's different than like this high frequency word we. If kids know the consonant W and the pattern that an E by itself at the end of the word is long, then they will know that this word is pronounced we. They can decode it. So for reading teachers, what we usually do is we go after these high frequency sight words because those are the words, no matter how good kids are at decoding or knowing phonics features, they still won't be able to read those sight words. And the only way to really learn them is to kind of memorize them visually. So before we get into thinking about how we teach sight words, let's look at, again, this definition of sight words. Sight words are, again, high frequency words that do not follow the rules, the phonics rules of English. So here's some nice high frequency words that kids could decode. They're in a lot of text. In, went, make. These follow the rules of English. A consonant, short vowel, and a blend. A consonant, vowel, consonant, E, these all would be easy for kids to read once they knew those phonics features. Here are a couple of high frequency sight words. They're common words, that makes them high frequency, but they don't follow the rules of English. For example, this would be is. Put those two sounds together, you get is. And this word is not pronounced is, it's pronounced is. So this word is not following the rules of English. This is a consonant with vowel, consonant, E. In this phonics feature, E would kick that O. O would say its name. So this word should be some, but it's not. It's some. So no matter how good you are at decoding and knowing your phonics features, you cannot decode this word, which makes it a sight word. This word is ya, and then you have OU, which makes the ow sound. So this word would be yow, which it's not. It's you. So this vowel is not following the rule of English right here. So these are examples of high frequency sight words. Now it's important to remember that in order for a word to be a sight word, it really does need to be frequently occurring. We're not going to teach kids how to spell the word mnemonic or Shekelhoff, right? Because those words don't happen in a lot of text. It's not worth our time to teach kids how to memorize those words. So we want to pick words that they're going to see in a lot of text, but also words that don't follow the rules of English. Those are high frequency sight words. So now you try it. In this array of words, all of these are high frequency words, but you find the 3 that are high frequency sight words. Okay, the 3 are, in this column, there's 1. Of. It looks like it should be spelled O-V, but it's not. Of is spelled O-F. That is a high frequency sight word. We don't say this off, it's of. In this column, there is 1 high frequency sight word. Yes, this would look like, if we were going to say this, 2 vowels go walking, the first one does the talking, and it says its name, so this word would be said, but it's not, it's said. And in this column, there is 1 high frequency sight word. Or are there 2? So the word was sounds like it should be spelled W-U-Z, was, not was. So this is a high frequency sight word. In the word give, E kicks that I, makes it say its name. This word should be give, but it's not. So your high frequency sight words in this list are of, said, was, and give. Here's another example of how you have to know your phonics features, because you won't know if it's an exception to the rule unless you actually know the rule. There are 5 really effective procedures to teach a sight word. And so I'm just going to walk through these, and then you're going to see 2 videos of teachers using this progression of strategies. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to show the child the word and talk about the tricky part in the word. So if you're doing the word was, W-A-S, you might ask children if they can hear the different sounds. The reason we talk about the tricky part is we want to give kids an understanding of what parts of the word is going to be easy for them to remember and which parts are going to be tricky. So we're kind of pinpointing their attention to the most tricky parts. Then we're going to chant the letters in the word with the student, letter by letter. After they've chanted the letters in the word, so they might chant W-A-S, then they're going to read it, was. You're going to do that at least 5 times, maybe more. That's why it says 5 times plus. The more times you do each of these steps, the more indelible that particular bit of learning will be. The next step is a procedure called what's missing. You're going to write the word on a whiteboard, and then you're going to turn the board so the student can't see it and erase one of the letters. The student will then tell you which letter has been erased. You will write that back in so the student can see it, and then have them read the word. You'll repeat this procedure, turning the board and erasing some more letters, about 5 times. This is a really nice way to help children start to look for individual letters within that word. The 4th procedure is something called make and break. You're going to give the child some magnetic letters, or you could cut up pieces of paper and put a letter on each piece of paper. And you're going to mix those letters up and then ask the child to make the word with those letters. This is a little bit more challenging than what's missing because you're asking the child to put all of those letters in order instead of just finding one piece that's out of order. After the child makes the word, each time after they make the word, you have to ask them to read it. That's very important because we want to get them to associate the word itself with the letters. The 5th step is called finger spelling. You just have the child with a blank piece of paper or a magnetic board, use their finger to write that word. While they're writing the word, you want to make sure that they're actually writing it correctly. After they've written the word, you ask them to read the word. And again, you would repeat this upwards of 5 times. The last part of this is you're going to ask the child to write the word with a marker. After they write the word, you want them to read the word. Now, this is a wonderful progression of procedures. Because if the child has a problem at any point in this progression, so let's say you were able to talk about the tricky part of the word, the child chanted the word letter by letter and read it over 5 times, and then when you got to this what's missing part, when you turned the board and maybe you erased the W in the word was, the child couldn't remember that letter. So if a child has a problem at any point in this progression, here's our if-then statement. If the child has difficulty remembering the letter that's missing in what's missing, then you drop back a step and repeat this easier procedure. So these 6 procedural steps are written in order. If a child has trouble with finger writing, so you notice that when you get to this point in the process and you say write was, the child is actually writing W-U-Z. That's a good indication they don't know this word yet. And so what you're going to do is drop back to making and breaking and have the child make that word with the magnetic letters. This is easier work, make and break, because you're showing them exactly what letters are involved in the work. And then they can, after they've practiced making that word, they can try to write it again. So these procedures are incredibly effective. They go very quickly. You can do this whole procedure in about 2 minutes. You have to keep it going, but you can do it in 2 minutes. And it's a great way to help a child remember a high-frequency sight word. One of those tricky words that are common in English, but don't follow the rules. So the next part of what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to watch 2 demonstrations. One, I'm going to work with Liberty here, and in 2 minutes walk through all of the steps in that procedure. And then you have a second teacher, Miss M, is teaching this sight word not to an individual child, but to a group of students. So you can see what that looks like in group instruction. As a side note, she's teaching a guided reading lesson, which you'll learn how to teach guided reading in your next literacy course, which is Education 3640. The one thing I'd challenge you to do is while you watch Miss M's demonstration of teaching a sight word to a small group of children, I want you to notice that she does skip one of the steps that we've talked about and you'll see in my video above. And I think it's a step that's important for kids. So take a look at that procedure and see if you can figure out what Miss M forgot.